Hello and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about this Pentax K1000 SLR. It's not actually mine, I was lent it by a good friend of mine, and what I'm going to do is document my first experience using it. It is one of those cameras that is sort of touted as the first camera you should get. It's sort of the beginner camera for film photography, but that's not to say it's not a good camera. It's not like a kind of camera you grow out of. Essentially, it's a camera that won't trip you up. It is almost Spartan in its lack of features, but what it does have are everything you need. You've got your manual aperture dial, you've got your manual shutter speed dial. It does have a meter, but aside from that, everything's mechanical, and it is a camera that will serve you well. My plan today is to kind of demonstrate its use. I'm going to go out into town, I'll shoot 2 rolls of colour film, I'll talk you through the pictures, but at the same time, if you've just bought one of these, you should leave the end of the video understanding it fully. If you don't want to buy one of these, then you can watch it because it is an interesting camera. And if you are one of those people that is looking to buy into a sort of $50 SLR, I'm going to make the case that this could be the right one to get. First things first, this was produced for 21 years, which is wild if you think about modern consumerist culture. If you have something, let's say Sony bring out a new camera, can you imagine anyone in the world using that camera in 21 years' time? It simply can't happen. The rate of change is just absurd, but they made these between 1976 and 1997. So up until the very early days of the digital sensor, people were still shooting these. It's one of 3 million, this one. They made a lot of them, but that also speaks to its reliability and perhaps its popularity. I mean, you wouldn't keep making cameras for 20 years if they were staying on the shelves, would you? I've got it today paired with a 50mm 1.7, and the lenses, like the cameras, are relatively abundant, and that pushes the price down, so you can get into a set like this for a relatively reasonable price. It's mechanical, but you do put a battery in it, and if you are looking to get a battery, looking for an LR44, you can use it without the battery, but it will give you a meter reading with a battery that allows for much easier shots. So if you are starting out, I recommend getting the camera and then also getting a battery. One slight design flaw or quirk or whatever you want to call it is that there is no on-off for the meter itself. So essentially, whenever the lens cap is off the camera, the meter is running. For that reason, if you're ever going to store it, or even if you're walking around and you're not going to use it for a while, what you should do is put the lens cap back on, because that is the best way to conserve your battery power. If not, you can leave it like that, but I do recommend putting the lens cap on just because it will save your battery. What have I got in it? I've got some Superior in it. I'm going to shoot a roll of Superior, a roll of Portra, and then when I've seen those pictures, I'll know what I think of it, and maybe I'll do a little wrap up at the end. But now let's cut to me in London. Yeah. So this is my friend Charlie, who actually owns the Pentax K1000. He offered to help me out with the video shooting as well. So all the criticism of wonky camera angles or a little bit of shake, put that on him in the comments maybe. But yeah, from here we walk down the South Bank heading east and follow along. So this skate park underneath the South Bank is probably one of the most photographed places. Every time I see someone's video to London, they always shoot here. I'm going to make a deliberate effort for this video to not do it, yeah? So we're going to restart when I walk past it. Shooting this K1000 isn't particularly different than shooting any other SLR from the era. It's not really meant to be that standout feature-filled camera. It's more like the kind of the everyday workhorse. It doesn't feel slow, it doesn't feel incapable, but it is notably basic in the sense that I'm just going to be using the aperture, the shutter speed, and the shutter button. And to be honest, I don't really want much more. I can tell I was struggling a bit for subject because this is a bit of a goofy shot, but you can see what I was going for. Obviously, early autumn, early fall, so leaves on the floor. Got some overdressed biddies ready for a storm. That's a South Bank classic. That's art. So one thing that slightly bugs me about this is that I'm used to focus that is moving towards infinity as I push it that way. I don't know if it's just because the brands that I've used or the lenses that I've bought, but I keep having this this reaction that I snap it to infinity and end up just close focusing it. I don't know if I've missed shots for it, but it's slowing me down a bit. I mean, that's just my habits. Obviously that shot of the art sign was a dumb joke, but I really like this one for some reason. I think it's either the texture of the paint contrasting with the fabric, or the fact that that rip is clearly a result of that aerial. But yeah, this was one of my favourites. This was the last shot from the Superior roll, so now it's time to load the portrait. Okay, I'm just going to show you how to load this now. It's fairly simple, like all of the SLRs from this time period. I'm going to start by rewinding my previous roll. So to do that, I press this button on the bottom. That releases the tension on the take-up spool. I'm just going to wind this back. I heard it come back onto this. So now what I have to do is pull up, and that's my shot film. I'll take that out, put that to one side. Loading is pretty simple. What we're going to do is put the film on the left and draw out a little bit of your leader. You're going to put the plastic spool, I'm just going to move that so I can see one of the gaps. Put that in there. A little bit rough and ready, but that's how it goes. As I advance the film, what you're going to see is that these little teeth here pick up the film, so that's now loaded. I can see because it's come back round that it is going to draw on. So what I'm going to do is close it now, and as with all these cameras, I'm going to advance it until I see 0 on my frame counter. You can be confident that you've loaded the film correctly when this moves as you advance your winder. That's now on 0, that's ready to go. I'm just going to quickly update my speed from what it was before for the Superior up to 400 and then back a bit for portrait. So obviously this is the first shot from the roll of portrait. You can see the film burn on the left side of the frame. I saw these guys sitting in that corridor of light and thought it might make a good shot, but maybe there's too much going on. The shutter on this is quite loud. What I'm going to do now is take a picture of Charlie holding the camera and you'll be able to hear. It is actually a cloth shutter, but it still does have quite a click to it. I don't think he was expecting me to catapult him into the video like that, but yeah, I got to say a big thank you to him because without him I wouldn't have any video of me shooting. I love the blue sky in this one. I wish that my digital images could have 1/10 that kind of pastel gradient you can see here. At this point we were walking down towards Westminster Bridge, and there's that theme parky area on the South Bank with the rides leading into the merry-go-round and then the London Eye itself. Thinking as I took this that I actually cannot remember the last time I went on the London Eye. I think I might have had an age that was just a single digit at that point. So this shot, obviously I've underexposed. I tilted the camera down to meter off the foreground, but I think that the bright water on the left has tricked me a bit. The meter in this camera is actually a needle meter. I'll show what it looks like here now. So on the right of the screen, you can see what the meter looks like in your viewfinder. Obviously it's not the most advanced meter, but it does get the job done. It is just important to think about what you're pointing it at. What it will do is it will give you an average representation of everything in front of it. So if you have these buildings and then the bright sky or the bright reflections on the water, it is going to underexpose the buildings in an attempt to reduce the highlights in the other areas. A good tip is to meter off the back of your hand or something that is not super contrasty and that you know is correct exposure, so that you can use that for the whole scene rather than risking it like I did. Here's one of those iconic London shots, ruined by a bit of scaffolding. Imagine coming to London to see Big Ben and you just get whatever that is. So we crossed over the bridge in that previous shot. Here's a photo looking west. We wandered around the area surrounding the Houses of Parliament. There were some Brexit campaigners, or actually in this case Remain campaigners. We didn't see any Brexit people. So we just walked over Westminster Bridge. I just made a throwaway comment, like, let's walk around the square and see what happens. And I just got the most random and unexpected shot on this roll. Some of you in the UK might know who the guy in the red tie is. It's Jeremy Corbyn, the leader of our opposition. If you're from the States, you might think of him more as kind of Bernie Sanders-esque, happy grandpa who has some socialist policies. But yeah, didn't expect that. And the more eagle-eyed viewers might have seen him brush past me in the previous shot as well. Might have chosen the wrong place to do my little piece to camera. So after that, I got on the tube at Westminster and was heading back up towards where I live. And I took this last shot just over the railway bridge you saw in the previous clip. And I think that's actually my favourite shot on the roll. I like the slightly muted colours and the greenery that's growing out of the railway tracks. I think this might be the only one I'll post, actually. So I got to the end of the video and I hadn't really made my mind up, so I'm now actually sat here, I'm shooting this, having edited the rest of it, and I thought what I'd do is I'd give you some things that I think the Pentax was really good at, and then a few different avenues you could go down if you are looking for that kind of first SLR sort of beginner learner camera. You have to bear in mind that the Pentax K1000 was so well regarded as a sort of learner film camera that a lot of photography teachers and sort of schools would actually insist that people got them. And I do put the big four, so I'm going to go Canon, Nikon, Pentax and Olympus as the kings of that SLR market at the time. There are the other brands and they do go a bit third party, or they're overpriced. But if you do want to take it in another direction, I'll give you kind of the best option that isn't the Pentax for whichever kind of strength you want. For example, if you want something like the Pentax, which is mechanical with just a battery for meter, you could look at the Nikon cameras, maybe from the kind of the FM2, F3 era. So they're going to be a little bit better made and a little bit more expensive, but if that's the kind of thing you're looking for, then that would be a good avenue to pursue. Likewise, if you want something that is easy to shoot, I would say look maybe at the Canons, the Canon AE1 program, A1, that kind of thing. They're really well regarded and they do have that auto exposure function that you should feel no shame in using. It is sometimes easier to just not have to follow your meter around when you walk from one light to another sort of lighting condition. And then honourable mention for the Olympus. If you've seen my previous vid with the OM10, you'll see that it's not particularly expensive. It's one of those cameras that is super easy to shoot. You barely have to do anything apart from focus and click. So if you're looking for that kind of film camera aesthetic and you don't want to go into the sort of deep dive into exposure and sort of film latitude and all that stuff, then maybe the Olympus is the one to look at. But other than that, thanks very much for watching. I know that it's been a while since I've done one of these. If you liked the new format, then do let me know in the comments. I think that maybe the next few videos I'll go back to holding the camera at arm's length, but until then, thanks very much.